Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto, and today guys we are taking a cheeky look at the graph. It's had some fantastic recent movements on the charts, so we're going to get into some of that, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the graph is and what they're trying to do and why this is an important project to be paying attention to during 2021. Chris, anything you want to add before we get into this?
No, let's get straight into it, Nick.
Fantastic. So as always, if
Lovely.
you find it useful, informative, do go ahead and smash that like button. Chris really appreciates it. And if you're new to the channel and not yet subscribed, do go ahead and subscribe. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with all the videos and live streams that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And Chris, my puppet, will join me on this journey to the desktop. I am such a joker. Right, anyway, so as you can see, some recent price movements on the graph here. So it's had some fantastic movements in the last 3 days, really pushing things further forward. But for those who don't know, the graph is an indexing protocol for decentralized applications that basically allows developers to effectively access blockchain data. So developers can build subgraphs, as they're referred to in the protocol, that define how to ingest, index, and serve blockchain data in a verifiable way. So it's really quite a complex thing to kind of explain. But there's a few things that we need to obviously talk about, right? So there are 4 types of participants in the protocol. There's the indexers. These are node operators that stake GRT in order to provide indexing and querying processing services, right? So query processing services. And indexers earn query fees and indexer rewards for their services, right? The other ones are creators. These are subgraph developers, data consumers, or community members who signal to indexers which APIs should be indexed by the protocol. Then we have delegators, and these are individuals who'd like to contribute to securing the network, but do not want to run a graph node themselves. And I think a lot of people will be familiar with delegators. And then at the end, the fourth one here is consumers, right? So those are the end users that query subgraphs and pay query fees to the indexers, curators, and the delegators. Okay, so there's basically 4 types of participants. And depending on where you sit, you might be a delegator, a consumer, a curator, or even an indexer. So what is GRT? So GRT is the native ERC20 utility token of the graph. And has basically a few interesting use cases. One is obviously staking, which we kind of allude to with the delegators there. But basically, staking is something that the indexers can do as well, and they can stake their GRT to provide indexing and querying services. So you can obviously deposit, creators can deposit GRT into a bonding curve to signal a specific subgraph and earn a portion of the querying fee. So there's obviously that aspect to it as well. Delegation, which we spoke about obviously earlier, is where delegators contribute by delegating GRT to existing indexes and earn a portion of querying fees and indexing rewards in return. And then obviously we have consumers, right, who pay GRT for subgraph querying, and basically they can pay that to the indexers, the creators, and the delegators. And obviously there's a GRT reward, right? So the indexers and delegators will earn indexing rewards in the form of GRT. So all of those things really have an impact on, I guess, how the GRT performs, the token performs, and what you're looking at here on that chart, right? Ultimately, we see those green candles. And that's because, you have people now effectively staking, you have good indexers, creators, delegators, and consumers, and things are starting to heat up a bit. Okay, and that's going to get things moving. And obviously, the more that gets delegated and more that gets staked, the less circulating supply of GRT there will be. So a little bit of history, I guess. The graph raised, I think it was like 7.5 million USD from private investors for approximately 17% of the GRT total token supply. And that happened between, I think, April 2018 and June 2020. And approximately 6% of the total GRT supply has been sold in public token sales. And they were those sales were ranging between 2 cents and 3 cents. So people have made significant amounts of money in the short term here. But the total GRT supply on the mainnet will be 10 trillion. Sorry, 10 billion, not trillion, 10 billion, get my numbers right. More details, obviously, on that distribution can be found via their website, etc. But ultimately, at the moment, there's actually quite a limited supply of GRT actually out there on the market. So there's some things that we need to obviously pay attention to when it comes to the graph, right? Because ultimately, more and more tokens will eventually enter the marketplace, and that will have a knock-on effect to the price as well. So as it stands at the moment, I believe there is 1.2 billion GRT tokens actually out in supply against that 10 billion token level. Okay, so basically we're just over 12% of the way through. And I think there was another portion of tokens that are due to hit the market in the next 6 months as well. So there's definitely things to be paying attention to from the token side of the graph. Now, if we have a look at this chart in a little bit more detail, things that we can see here immediately were the initial coin offerings that we had. And this comes down to the fact that it was listed on Coinbase, Pro, and Binance on the same day. So it saw some significant growth straight out of the gate, going from 0 effectively all the way up to the high level here of 77 cents. Now, obviously, immediately after that, there was lots of selling pressure here, and the token did fall down into this area here, rallied up again a little bit, but fell almost all the way down to a low level in total here of 23 cents. Okay, and then from here in the last few days, we've had some significant motion in the upward trend. Now, some things that we obviously need to point out and take note of, Chris, is where the current candle sits on the daily chart here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and drop this into an hourly view so we can get a better view of what's actually going on. Now, if I scroll out, we can see the significance of this recent climb in a little bit more of a granular detail. I'm just going to put that back to where I found it. Right, so from here, what we can do is actually draw a bit of a trend line. We can see some significant areas of kind of, what we want to be paying attention to, right? So there's this upward trend here, this trend line. That looks relatively strong if you think about the amount of touch points we've actually had on this line moving in an upward trend. We also had put the upper limit as well, and we could argue that we've actually had a breakout from this, but let's see what this might look like if we were to draw this in. So if I just pull that over there and scale this accordingly, we can see that we could argue that we had a breakout here, an anomaly coming back in, so an unusual level here, and now we're back into this zone. Now, if we pull that down, we can see it's a bit of a channel of an upward trend. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's 100% accurate, but it's going to give us a bit of a ballpark figure as to what's going on here. Now, one of the key things that I'm kind of alluding to a bit is we are on the cusp of something pretty major. And what that is the basically the Fibonacci retracement level, the 78% level. And that's what we came into here. Very, very briefly, and that's where there was lots of selling pressure. Now we are trying to push above it, and what we want to do is we want to get some significant candles closed in this area in a bullish formation that will allow us to continue the motion out of this area of the chart, and in doing so that will then gear us up to head towards our first price target and beyond the high level that we had previously. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip this back into our daily view so you can see exactly what I'm referring to. Okay, and that's this candle here, right? So this candle on the daily is obviously not closing above this line as it stands. Now we need to get a daily candle closing in this area, and then by doing so we have an opportunity to test an all-time high level of 77 cents. And if we can break that and go through on the graph and pierce this particular level, which is unlikely to do it on the first attempt, but it can happen, but it's unlikely. We could potentially come back down in a consolidation phase before eventually actually breaking back out into new all-time highs. Now, with the graph, our first price target for this thing is actually $1.17. So we could see a price movement up to that $1.17 for the graph. And that could happen relatively quickly. I mean, these are some bullish candles here, but I imagine that we're going to get some consolidation down before potentially moving out. But it really whatever happens here is really crucial, because that 78 Fibonacci level is key to moving on out of these areas. But beyond that $1.17, our second price target is $1.82, Chris. which is a fantastic price for the graph, specifically if you were getting in when it was near zero. Now, if we move up to the third level, we can see that we have $2.48. And then at the very top of this Fibonacci extension, we can see we have $2.88. So ultimately, there's a lot of potential for this thing to go much higher than it currently is. And things are only really just starting to warm up for the graph. Ultimately, being the equivalent of Google in the blockchain world is a big milestone and a big mantle and big boots to fill. But Graph are definitely poised and ready to do so. Obviously, they are only currently servicing Ethereum, but they do have the intention to scale that out much further as well, Chris. So really interesting times ahead. Anything you want to add on the Graph? Obviously, you were invested even before I was, Chris.
Yeah, so I got into this one quite early. Really like this project. I think, as soon as it was listed on Coinbase, obviously, it started to skyrocket. I think there was a lot of people that made a lot of money on the way up and then exited. And a lot of people were probably hurt by it, getting in just a little bit too late, trying to make a quick buck, which obviously is something that we don't advise people doing when something's initially listed on Coinbase. However, this is actually a fantastic project, and I think there's a lot of people just getting in because it was just newly listed to Coinbase rather than actually knowing what it was they were getting invested into. And it is a fantastic project. I can quite easily see a $2 to $3 price range in the bull run. I think it's going to do really, really well.
Absolutely. So guys, if you found this useful, informative, do go ahead and smash that like button. Chris really does appreciate it, and so do I. And as always, if you're new to the channel and not yet subscribed, do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with all the videos and live streams that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And with all this said and done, we hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Yeah, take care.